Okay, so I want to talk about your current project that you're writing, and this is part of your master thesis, right?
Yeah, so this was my creative thesis when I was graduating from Vermont College of Fine Arts, and so it's sort of a hybrid, you could say. It uses, as one of my advisors in Vermont so eloquently put it, it uses the mystery genre as a springboard for real life fiction for young people.
Oh, good, right.
So it's not, your classic true mystery,
Right.
which, from what, in conversations with different people and in reading mysteries, you could say that that is a very plot-focused genre.
Uh-huh.
Of course, there are characters.
Right.
There's some character development, but it's really focused on the action.
Right. Sure.
And in its truest form. So this isn't like the true form because it does have the real life elements. And I was driven to the mystery genre for that reason, is because I felt like personally I am so much, like, character comes so much more easily to me
Right.
than developing a really new, unique, kind of interesting plot.
Right.
So I wanted to be all about plot.
Right. Sure.
And to just create, and to also, it just was I thought it'd be a fascinating challenge to create a mystery,
Right.
to actually have to come up with how things are.
Did you read like Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew when you were young?
I did, and I read all the Encyclopedia Browns
Right, yeah.
and all those. Yeah.
I love that series.
I love that
Yeah.
series so much, and so that was definitely an inspiration too. And in fact, in one of the very early drafts of the novel, I referenced Encyclopedia Brown,
Uh-huh.
and one of the advisors said, "Nobody's going to know what that
Yeah. It'll probably have to be like Wikipedia Brown.
Right, exactly.
So you started writing this as a master's
Yeah.
thesis, and then
It's,
again, I think you said that it's like 33 chapters or something like that. You had like a lot of chapters.
yeah,
Right.
I started out with a lot of chapters, and so now it's around sort of 35,000 words, which is kind of a general
Mhm.
middle grade. I mean, of course, you have middle grade that are less or more, but that's kind of a ballpark
Okay.
sort of figure. And but so I didn't complete it at Vermont, so I was still working on it after
Right.
I graduated, and then I was working on the Cleo and Cornelius project.
Right.
So it's there's a beach detective, and it's interesting because different people I've talked to about it, and agents and editors, they think it's an interesting term, beach detective. Like, what is a beach detective? And other people just kind of, like, oh yeah, beach detective. But it's essentially that, I don't know, I didn't set out living in LA to create a novel in Venice.
Yes.
It just sort of happened.
Yeah, maybe you create a new genre.
Yeah,
A beach detective
exactly.
novel.
But I just thought
yeah.
it was a nice, there was a lot of different components to it because it's a close-knit beach community.
Uh-huh.
And I thought
Sure.
that was it is sort of a unique subculture
Yeah, sure.
within, a city, the whole beach community. And, I'm not like I'm from Wisconsin, and,
Right.
but I like the beach.
Right. Is the protagonist, so the protagonist is how old?
So she is a 5th grader.
Okay.
Yeah, and so she's, her name's Pepper, and her full name's Penelope. And so she and her scruffy black cat Moose
Mm-hmm.
are partners in solving crimes.
I see.
And so so they have these actual mysteries to solve in the book, but at the same time, she is actually taking on sort of, they talk about the concrete desire line and the emotional desire line. The concrete desire line is solving the mysteries,
Sure.
and the emotional is that she's sort of the rock of her family,
Uh-huh.
and so she has to. Her dad is an out-of-work actor. He's kind of like the George Costanza.
Sure.
Again, I don't know. I didn't want to put an actor in this book, but
Yeah.
it just happened. So he's like the George Costanza who had this wildly successful career as a principal on this show Chicago High. It's and then the show was canceled and he can't get cast.
Sure.
And so he's struggling with that. And then his wife, Pepper's mom, is a wildly successful sort of motivational speaker and author. And so their dynamic, so it's a tricky dynamic in the parents' relationship because the mom's always traveling, and the mom is always speaking in sort of motivational, like platitudes.
That's funny.
And which drives Pepper crazy,
Uh-huh.
because she's a teenager, but she learns to appreciate her mom, by the end of the book, and the dad feels emasculated because
Sure.
he was sort of the breadwinner, and
Right.
now he's unemployed, and so there's this conflict. And then she has a little brother who's got allergies that she's kind of taking care of, and so she has this little career as this detective,
Right.
and so she feels that's where she feels most content and most at peace and most herself, is like when she's very
I see.
analytical,
Right.
when she's solving her crimes, and then she's trying to bring together sort of the chaos of her family, and
Got it.
so she kind of learns how to accept things being messy and in their gray, and love, and because she has to have everything together, because that's how she is as a detective. Everything has to make sense.
Right.
Like, things are solved, they're a certain way, and that she ultimately, so her trajectory is, learning that, like, things can be beautiful even in the chaos.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting because you talk about the emotional development.
Yeah.
So that's almost like she has to go through an emotional journey too
Yeah.
to come up. Like there's a threshold that she achieves, and then she comes out better at the end.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's challenging too, because, as they always say with the showing not telling, it's it's like through the tricky part of writing is through the plot and through the mysteries, having that trajectory come through naturally,
Right.
without being forced or didactic, or
Right. Sure.
that's actually through these moments of her experiences that make total sense how she would evolve
Right.
throughout this process. And so, so
Have you finished that manuscript, or?
I'm almost done, because
Right.
I'm sort of reworking the ending at the moment.
Right.
But
You told me like the mystery.
Yeah.
You wanted to make it a lot more
yeah,
rewarding.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
So that in this, what I'm hoping this will be a series, but in this first book, one of the mysteries, the main sort of significant mystery, is that our partner in crime, Moose, goes missing.
Right.
And I just didn't feel like I had made the payoff of that, work as well as I could. I knew I could make that better at the end, so I'm reworking that now. Yeah.
So tell me about your writing process. So what do you do? Do you try and have a ritual where every morning you wake up at a certain time and to write before going to work or starting the day?
That's a good question. So
Or are you one of these night people who work
well, it's
after you
funny.
come back from the bar? You focus on I don't know.
No, that's funny. It's because of course, in grad school when I had those deadlines,
Yeah, sure.
I just wrote all over.
That's the great
place.
thing about
Yeah,
the grad program, is it
Exactly.
keeps you on the deadline.
it really
Yeah.
does. So I would come home.
But life doesn't have a deadline. You can
No.
go in and start any time. It's the problem.
Exactly.
Life.
I know. So, and I feared, like, it was really nice jumping right out of the grad program into working at Cleo and Cornelius, because it really kept
sure.
me in a consistent pace.
Right,
But I can't believe that was 2017.
right.
So now it is trickier. Now that I actually don't want to be like painfully like stressed out constantly like I was in grad school.
Right, sure.
Like,
You don't want to relive those years.
I know.
Right.
It's like you can only do that so long as
Right.
And so I just I still struggle. Like, to answer your question, I'm still a little bit all over the map, but I'm slowly working into a morning routine.
Okay,
And weekends,
sure.
but
right.
it's the nights are harder, just with being so
Yeah.
burnt out from work.
Sure.
And, it just
And do you sit down? Do you write for like 2 hours or 3 hours?
like if I had my like perfect Saturday too, it would be like I'd have gone to the Beverly Hills Library and I could just stay there all day.
Really?
Just do that, because
Wow.
it's so nice to have that concentrated period of time. And
Can you do one chapter in a sitting, or do you have to break up the
Yeah.
the chapters?
And I know this one author once wrote, which I totally agree with, that it takes so much more, which makes sense, it takes so much more energy and time to generate something new, like a
Right.
new chapter, than to edit.
Oh,
At least
sure.
for me. I mean,
Right.
some people may
Right.
be different, but so if I am doing completely new material, which is the yucky first draft,
Right.
getting over that sort of
Sure.
need to make it perfect. But if I'm still generating something new, it takes so much longer than editing. Like I love editing.
Yeah, sure.
Going back and
I mean, filmmakers love that too. Because
Yeah.
they just shoot the rough cuts and then they can just shape it the way. That's where the real art comes in, is how you edit things together.
exactly. And they always talk about the pantsers versus the platters, the people who write from the seat of their pants,
Ah,
and
so
the people
right.
who plat it out.
Yeah.
And I've people always talk about this at conferences too, and because a lot of people say you should outline,
Mhm.
and then there's the people who just
Oh, just go.
They
Wait,
just
do you
go.
outline? You
Well-
must have outlined with a mystery.
Well, I do. What I do is I usually, I just start writing,
Mhm.
and then to figure out like what I want to write, and then I get about a third in, and I have to outline the rest.
Oh, I see.
Because now I'm like, okay, I know this is just the story I
Right.
have, but I have to know, and
Exactly.
especially with the mystery.
That's
So,
it. So about a third in. So you get to the conflict,
Yeah.
and then after that, it needs to be sort of plotted out.
Yeah, and I actually find an outline really liberating because it's like, and it can change and evolve, of
Right.
course, but it's like you have the structure, and then you can just play with language and dialogue and all the
Right.
creative fun things.
Right.
You're not like racking your brain about how, what is the actual story I'm
Right.
creating here
Sure.
in all of this sort of
Right.
sort of writing fun, it's like, so that this is going somewhere because
Right.
you're following this. But some people just can't write that way. They have to, just do it as they go.
Right. Sure.
And some people, they could never do anything but have an outline from
Right.
the beginning.
Right.
So.
So after you write, and then after you do your edit, then you show it to somebody, and then you get their feedback. I mean, what's that like?
Well,
Is
that's the
painful?
theory.
Is that like
Well,
people
and,
destroying you? Like,
yeah.
why don't you just kill me now?
Well, it's funny. I mean, with Pepper and Moose, it was a little bit different because I had all of the grad advisors look at
Right.
it, and I actually went to an alumni mini residency, and I had a agent and editor look. Like I had it workshop twice, so
Wow.
I don't really need anyone's feedback.
Right.
anymore.
That's like,
Like I've had
Yeah.
so much feedback on it, which is great.
right.
That I feel like until God willing, it's published, and I get the editor's feedback,
Right.
because then it's like a whole other
Sure.
series.
Well, that's what I
of
mean. It's almost like
edits.
evolving, and
Yeah.
you can't even really see the end
Yeah,
until it actually gets published. right?
exactly. But I do think it is really good to have people read your work throughout the process. But personally, you have to know who
Right.
I'm pretty discerning about who I want to read the work, because as we know with any critique,
Sure. Right.
you can't. Some people just have a different idea of a story,
Right.
and it can kind of set you off
Right.
in a different direction. I mean, everyone's different, but I personally don't show it to, and I don't show it to too many people, and I think it's actually better, for me at least, to not show it to people who are close to you.
Sure. Right.
It just creates less conflict.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I often feel that, it's just harder.
Well, it's a creative thing,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, that's like, and particularly if you put all this thing into it, and then you get some feedback from somebody who just read it for like a couple hours and
Yeah.
started talking about how he's the character and stuff like that.
Well, and there's like the ending of Funny Farm that
Sure.
where
I just saw that film.
Did you?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. That was Chevy Chase. I think Madeline. I can't remember who the
Oh,
actress
right.
in it.
But yeah, so he gives it to her on their
Right.
anniversary
Exactly.
to
yeah.
read the whole book,
Right.
and it's terrible.
Yeah. But I don't want to get into the Chevy Chase movie.
yeah,
So doesn't he steal her idea or something like that?
yeah.
Or she has an idea and
Yeah.
he takes it and it becomes a bestseller.
It takes it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a funny example of how
Right.
So I think it's important to kind of be able, someone who you trust, And yeah, and I mean, it can be someone close to you if you have the right rapport
Right.
that you can just give and critique feedback. But anything you give someone, and everything can be improved.
Right.
Even so, I think it's just really good to be open to criticism, of course, and then they always say, like, wait 2 days too. Like, if you get feedback from your editor or from someone, don't, because you'll naturally feel a little upset.
Sure.
Because you don't give it to someone until you feel like it's perfect.
Right, sure.
Right. And then it's not, of
right.
course. And so, they come back and you're like, oh.
That's interesting. They said 2 days
just have 2 days so you digest it,
right.
sleep on it. And then when you reread the critique, oh yeah, I suppose.
Right.
They might not be just totally ridiculously wrong.
I won't fire him today.
Yeah.
I'll wait a couple of days to do that.
Exactly.
That's interesting. So, when do you think that you can get it finished? At least a draft of it done.
Yeah. So I think within the next couple of weeks.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'll have that ready to go because I have, I've outlined the ending too, and I have written quite a bit of it. So I think if I can just clear a few things, I'll be able to get it.
And how many pages are we talking about? Since it's for middle grade.
Yeah. So nowadays it's kind of funny because like they're doing these short books now that are like smaller. So it's hard.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's hard to say how. It's probably it could be like 150, or depending on how they.
How they market it, right?
Or if they do like a smaller font or.
That's interesting because I do see these books. They are getting smaller.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's because of like backpacks and stuff like that, where kids would have it
Probably.
too. They're not paperback; they're hardcover, right?
Yeah.
Which is probably because of binding and so forth.
Exactly, and maybe.
Will it have illustration in it?
It'll have some.
Okay.
Kind of like this book too, where it has interspersed.
Right.
It'll have a couple here and there, and like Encyclopedia Brown.
Yeah, sure.
A couple there.
And do you have an illustrator, or you're trying to do your own illustration?
Well, I wish I could do my own illustration.
Right.
I mean, I could, but
yeah.
but
you want someone to see
exactly,
it.
Exactly. And, so I don't have an illustrator that I personally would recommend because I've just heard so much.
Yeah, sure.
It's almost like it's better not to come in attached to anyone because, especially as it's the first book in the series, or they're going to have a strong opinion on the illustrator.
Right.
So it's almost better I come in kind of more open.
I see.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do have a very specific, which I'm sure all authors do. I have a vision of what they should look. I mean, like of how, particularly moose. Actually, let's face it. The cat.
Yeah.
The cat. I've always pictured him as this scruffy kind of black cat and such. But I don't know. They could say. No,
it's a Siamese cat.
It's a Siamese cat. Yeah, like we've done target, market research, and we think, the
Siamese cat
that sells more
genre.
books.
That's needs to be tagged.
So that that'd be hard. But again, I'm trying to be open. And
that is true. I mean, until it's published, really, it's a living document. And even after that, it probably if it goes into like a series, you're going to be doing more and more edits to it. So it's constantly living.
Yeah.
And changing and morphing to it. So.
And even just sort of there could be some element, like even from where it started at the beginning of the master's program to where it is now. I mean, I've cut characters.
Right.
I've cut so many things, and I've streamlined.
Right.
But I think, at least in my opinion, it's almost better. I think we start out with too much.
Right.
Like
sure.
I always start out with too ambitious.
Right.
And then it's it's like this isn't like Gone with the Wind.
Right.
You have to cut this and streamline it.
Right.
And so that's always painful for me, just to be able to just make it. Even one of the advisors I had, and we all have our favorite authors who are able to do this well, said, it's really almost like to dare to write plainly.
Oh, sure.
Even so many writers they have they have talents and such, but to be able to just pick like the one sort of word
Right.
that encapsulates everything. In fact, I went to this poetry workshop recently, and the instructor said, if you have to have too many adjectives before the noun, it's the wrong noun.
Right.
It's like, pick the noun
Oh,
that
that's right. Sure.
encapsulates
Instead of
all
saying
of
people, actually get to the
Yeah,
actual person.
the
so.
one word that, and of course that takes a lot of time
Yeah,
and
sure.
energy to kind of, so, but that's the goal,
Right.
I think, is to just be, and for, young readers too, I think it is better to write, the story to be rich and the language to be rich, but the words and the writing to be very streamlined.
Right.
I think we all enjoy that.
I can't wait to read it. And when it does get done and actually gets, through that process again, hopefully, it's what you want. But yeah, you're right. If anything, part of writing is a struggle and it's the art itself, so it's always evolving.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Janine.
Thanks. Yeah, no
Bye.
problem.